Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Paul Baker?
Here.
Ms. Tresson? Here. Ms. Gazzola? Here. Dr. Houston? Present. Ms. Moise? Here. Dr. Palmisano?
Here.
Ms. Patrick? Here. Sister Shive? Sister Carol? Are you here? Okay. Ms. Troxler is excused. And Ms. Laurier?
Here.
You have forum.
Okay, now we'd like to go around the room and have our guests introduce themselves. We'll start on this side with Daphne.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Daphne Flintboy, Fellow Program, and I am the sales officer. Nice to see everybody.
I'm Tommy Locke, I'm National General Counsel of the Diocese of Alexandria, and I'm one of the appointees by the governor on this.
Dr. Keith Corville, Associated Professional Educators of Louisiana.
Kristen Lou, Director of Certification, Department of Education.
Jimmy Shelpolly, Principal, Homer Christian School.
Sarah Freeman, Executive Director of Portfolio Opportunities in the Office of the Division of Equity, Inclusion, and Opportunity.
Lindsay Rose, I'm the non-public contact for the Department of Ed.
Ronnie Ramil, the Policy Director of Department.
Kate Brumley, Superintendent of Department of Ed.
Keith Leger, Assistant Superintendent, Department of Ed.
Thank you very much to everyone who's present today. And so now looks like the election of the chair and the vice chair come up quite often, don't they?
I can be over here.
Yeah, well, it sure looks like super than every year, but anyway. So the floor is open for nominations for the election of the chair.
I think you should keep serving. How do I say that?
Last year I said it was probably my last year because I'd be retired, and then that did not happen.
It did
So,
not stop.
I will second that.
So I say you have.
Second by Sister Carol. Any other nominations? All in favor? Any opposed? No. Thank you very much. I appreciate the vote of confidence, and I don't get extra pay for that, but I certainly am at your pleasure and serve the best that I can. So I appreciate that. So now we have nominations for vice chair. Nominations.
Sister Carol's gonna keep doing that. I'll second that.
Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, so I guess it stays just like it is. Some things never change.
We don't like change. Thank
I guess this group does not like change. So now you should have gotten your minutes from our last meeting. Which was 9 months ago, so if you refresh your memory and you have read them, I need a motion to receive.
I'll make the motion.
Carol, I need a second. Dr. Baker, all in favor? Thank you very much. So now we move to state and federal funding matters.
You know what,
What?
if we could, we need to make a phone call, so if we could take items out of order and
Okay.
let Dr. Brumley go while we
Perfect.
get the phone set up.
We're very honored. We're very honored this morning that Dr. Brumley has taken time to address the non-public school council, which we are advisory pretty much for him. So I'll now let Dr. Brumley have the floor. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I appreciate you
Don't need
being
to get a motion. Wait, I'm sorry, you know, we have to do this right. I need a motion to receive. Dr. Mel, second, Dr. Houston, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Okay. I'm good this time?
You're good
All
now.
right. I appreciate you mentioning being advisory, and many of you have certainly been advising me, and so I appreciate that. It's truly an honor to be here to serve as state superintendent in Louisiana. I am a native Louisianian, and proud and humbled and honored to be in this role. We've done so many great things in our state in terms of our educational system, but we all recognize we still have a long way to go. And my goal is to pick up on those areas that are working well, maintain those things, but at the same time recognize areas where we need improvement and try to help bring everyone together so that we can improve for those, in those areas for our kids and our families and our communities. It strikes me that I should share that so many of the challenges that we face as leaders in the educational space are shared challenges, not just right now, but always. And certainly as we are all working through educating children through COVID and keeping the safety of our kids as a primary responsibility, but also understanding the priority behind student learning, and then working with our families in various ways, and embracing the economic challenges that this has also brought on us and our schools and our families. So many of those challenges are shared. And I just want to take a moment to say collectively, thank you for the work that you have done to educate in a safe environment through COVID. I believe that the mitigation efforts that we have put in place to safeguard our kids and our employees are working. Someone asked me, well, how do you know that? Well, I know that because I'm constantly in communication with the experts on the virus, from the Department of Health, from Oxford, from Children's, and with school leaders. And so I think that the things that we have been doing are working, and that's why I believe, and I still believe, that we as an educational community were ready to enter phase 3. And I think that if we continue to use the efforts that we have been using, we'll be successful in phase 3 as well. You know, I've had a ton of conversations over the last few months, and have had the opportunity yesterday to release a 100-day report just of key findings of those first 3 months. And so I hope that if you haven't already, you take time to look at that report. It will not take you over 5 minutes to examine that. But I do think there's really some good information in that report, in areas where we can see where we've done well, and areas where we can probably all agree we have to do better. I feel like, too, I need to pause. I know Kimberly's here, but just in recognition of the additional challenges that are faced in part of our state right now due to Hurricane Laura, which I believe was one of the strongest hurricanes to ever hit the United States. And you know, I was able to go over. I did not have the opportunity to visit if your schools while I was there, but I've shared several times, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, boots on the ground is worth 5,000, because one can't appreciate the devastation and destruction of that storm truly unless you see it in person. And so I've also encouraged people to whatever degree is possible within your means to pitch in with local civic groups and faith-based organizations as I have to help support the needs of individuals that have been affected by the storm. I have no doubt that with COVID, with Laura, we will find a way through this. It's what school people do. It's what we do. We figure out a way to help everyone and move everyone together down the road. So I don't have a formal presentation today. I just wanted to stop in, say hello. I want you to know sincerely, authentically, I appreciate feedback. I appreciate knowing where you are. And it's as simple as an email or a phone call or, hey, can we grab 15 minutes to talk? I would much rather you do that, and let's have a general consensus of where you are and where I am so that we can work things out and make things better. So that concludes, I guess, what is supposed to be my report. If I have to have an official one, I'm directing you to the newsletter where my official 100-day report might be. But I promise you I'm here, and I want to work with you, and I want your schools to be successful for your kids, and just keep me looped in on anything that you might need in order to be successful. So thanks for your time, and I look forward to hearing some of the discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Brooke. Are we
Is there
ready?
any discussion on this item?
This item is sitting down.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Are we back to,
Now we're to the regular order of the agenda. Item 4.1 On this item right here, this is a required services item. We're gonna get a motion to receive here in just a second. Beth CNO is the deputy superintendent that was to be presenting this. She has been quarantined. And so she is going to present via our phone line. And you have the presentation is, Jen, is the required services presentation loaded up? Just a second so we can coordinate all of our multiple technology devices.
And we need a motion.
While she's doing that, yes, you can give me a motion to receive.
Motion to
Carol, second. Kimberly, all in favor? No, all in favor, yes.
See, she keeps me on task.
All right.
And we do work well together.
Probably.
It should be in your packet.
You should have a
Required
handout.
services.
Hi, Beth, this is Jennifer with Bessie and the NPSC meeting.
Good morning.
Morning,
You're
Deb.
the speaker, and your presentation is on it's up, it's ready to go, when you're ready.
Great. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Deb.
To provide some information on the required services submission this year. So I've just provided you some brief analysis on the process right now. So on slide number 2, I want to point out that as a reminder, the required services allocation provides for reimbursement for services that you actually clock and record during the year. So right now in 2021, we're actually providing reimbursement, or will provide reimbursement for the services you provided in the prior year. We have actually posted the guidelines and forms for the submission on the LDOE website. You can find those in the specific non-public library, I'll say. It's easy to access if you go to our LDOE website. All schools that participate in required services are both academically approved and Trump approved, and that is required to receive any state funding directly. Flip the slide, please. So on slide number 3, right now, one thing we are trying to do is transition to a fully electronic system where you will be able to submit your information electronically to us. During the pandemic, in the spring, we were looking across all of our work and trying to make sure that nothing would inhibit the department from actually receiving your information. We are well established in how we get out payments electronically, but up until now, we're not fully electronic when it came to required services. So this fall, well, at the time, in the past, we've always accepted hard copies, and we ask you to submit a flash drive with information on it. Well, now, in this transition period, because we're accepting both right now, we ask you to consider sending things electronically, entirely electronically via email. So that's our attempt to make sure that as we move forward and perhaps have to address pandemic challenges in the future, that we would be able to not interrupt our processing of any of these documents. So at this time, hard copies and the flash drives are fine, but if you can, transmit by the due date in fully electronic format, that's great as well. And we'll try to provide the technical assistance as we move out through the year so that maybe by next fall, more recipients of these funds would be, equipped to supply this fully electronic submission. On slide 4, I just noted that your documents are due to the department this Friday, September 5th. They are to be emailed, if that is your choice, to this non-public finance help desk email box. We have a team of my staff that that watches that email box. And you are able to send questions there as well as your form. If you have any other questions, you can reach us at the number identified there, the 342-3617, and my team will be glad to help you with any questions. We have probably, as of today, maybe a little more than 50% of all the paperwork from across the state, and so we do expect the next couple of days to be rather busy, but we'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have. Stop right there and see if there's anything that I can help y'all with today with regards to the questions.
Beth, Sister Carol has a question.
Good morning, Beth. It's Sister Carol from the Diocese of Shreveport. My question is, will the schools be submitting these required services? For example, right now they're sent to the Catholic school superintendent. I check those to make sure they're correct, and then I submit them all together. Will that change also, or will they be, and one more question, will it just be an annual submission, or now that it's electronic, will they be submitting each month?
Well, someone else has posed that question to me, and I guess I will be seeking some input from you all with regard to perhaps a more frequent submission. I think monthly is probably going to be somewhat challenging for our team to accept. I was contemplating perhaps getting some input, and we don't have to do all that today. I was going to arrange some sort of conversation with, a focus group of the representatives to get input on perhaps maybe a quarterly submission of documents. If in fact that would be helpful to you all, I think that we would have capacity at the department to receive them in that format, but again, I think it's a longer conversation. I am not trying to orchestrate how you yourselves submit that information. I know that in the past, for the diocese superintendent, it's been important to you to actually have the school submit you that information and then send it to us. I'm all for that same arrangement. But again, I'm willing to think through, new opportunities and anything that might make the process more efficient for both of us. So.
I just have one more question. Is there any consideration to adding more items to the reimbursement listing? For example, all these healthcare deals that we're working with right now, I know that's unique, but will there be an adjustment to what can be counted?
I am right now seeking some legal advice from our legal team here at the department with regards to the addition of any time you may be spending on that required reporting mandated by the state health officer on the COVID virus occurrences. So I am exploring that with our legal team right now, and they did not issue any advice, but I will, if for some reason that is appropriate to be included in that record keeping section, then, we may go ahead and be able to add that, but I'll have to wait on legal advice on that.
And
I don't know if there's anything else that really qualifies at this point. But again, we're looking at a couple of different things, to see if that might be eligible. We're in different circumstances now.
Beth, I don't want to add more to you all's plate, but maybe down the road, when you all get some of those answers to those questions and get some kind of format going, it might be in the best interest of all of us to have a webinar, so that we can kind of all be on the same page and that you all are not inundated with questions. So that may be something that you might want to think about, because I know other departments have been doing that. So I just throw that out just for your consideration, but that might help you all not to answer 5,000 questions. Of course, even though you have the webinar, you still probably get 10,000 questions. But that may be something that once you all, talk to your legal team and then figure out going forward, that may help us to know how to instruct our schools to do all that electronically. Just a thought.
And Beth, that's Miss Anna. She
Oh, I'm
is the
sorry.
chair.
You must have heard my, you knew who it was, huh, Ben?
I knew who.
Yeah, you knew who it was, Beth. Melanie?
And I will tell you that with regards to our information, and I welcome that, those suggestions, and requirements from him. And so my team is actually developing, some webinars with regards to required services so that we can institute, more open communication and discussions with you with regards to maintaining the records, different things like that. So we're a little bit maybe behind for the 2021 year, but again, once I do get some legal guidance on some of these other activities, we certainly will be having a webinar and releasing information on that, as well as just, if that were not the case, we would still probably have a webinar just to reinforce just all the rules around required services and just make sure everybody has what they need. I know that staff, changes in their offices and perhaps for an annual training like that would be best to keep everybody up to date. So appreciate that input.
Anybody else have questions about? Thanks, Beth, for all you and your staff do to assist us. We're always looking forward to that check. We always want money, so we do appreciate all that you all do for us.
Okay, you're very welcome.
I do have one.
Oh,
If I can ask one more question.
Sister Carol.
With this change, will there be, when she spoke of the check, the Catholic schools check comes to the superintendent's office, will that be changed?
No, I have there's no reason for that to be
Okay.
changed. No,
Good.
the payments will be issued just the same.
Okay.
Great. All right, anybody else? Thanks, Beth, very much.
Okay, all right, y'all have a good one. Thank
Okay.
you. Bye-bye.
All in favor? Any opposition?
Motion passes.
Motion passes.
Okay, hold on. So actually, this is the point where Dr. Brumley was going to speak. We took him out of order, but if you would please just let him have just a couple of more minutes. Some of his leadership team has arrived and he would like to introduce them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was awesome. But I did want to just make a few introductions. And there's some people you already have met previously, but I want to introduce some people that are in the room and then allow them to introduce some members of their team. So if I call your name, just introduce members of your team. So I'll start with Dr. Quintina Timmel, who is our LDOE Chief of Staff, and she manages or is managing now the internal operations of the department. So I just wanted to introduce you to Dr. Timmel and allow her to point out any members of her team that are here.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Pleasure to be here. Happy to work with you all and to serve you all in this capacity. I think somebody that's very important to you all, that you all know very well, is Mr. Cook.
You don't recognize him.
You don't recognize him, but I heard you all mention him, I think in another encounter, but Mr. Cook is here, and I think Daphne's here.
Oh,
Yes. Likewise. So they are here, like me, of course, to support you all in however we can. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Dr. Kelly Peterson, who's to my left, who's Assistant Superintendent for Equity, Inclusion, and Opportunity, and houses a lot of your body of work within her department. So,
Yeah, good morning, nice to see some familiar faces, glad to be here, and I apologize for being late, there was another, one of my divisions who were having a meeting prior to. And I want to also take a moment and introduce the team. You may have already met Dr. Kingdom, who leads as Executive Director of Portfolio Opportunities, and then oversees the non-publics and one of her support, which is Lindsay Rhodes, who I know that you all communicate with often. So happy to have him here and to be here with you all today. Thank you.
and then Dr. Keith Leger was in the room, who's Assistant Superintendent for Policy and Governmental Affairs, but in his absence, Ron Brumion, who works on that team, if you would introduce yourself and members of that team.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Brumion, Policy Director at the department. You know, we all know me pretty well. But Tracy Ballou oversees certification issues in our office, and then Sarah Malino oversees external workforce issues. I think y'all are pretty well familiar with them as well, and we look forward to continuing this.
Are we back to,
We're back to.
And it's our famous husband, Miss Daphne. I need a motion to receive. Dr. Mel, second Dr. Louise. Hey, Miss Daphne, you do have a handout.
And there's some information in your packet.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. It is really good to see everybody in person. I think we have been communicating virtually and through emails and text messages and phone calls since the whole pandemic hit. But I just first of all want to say to you that we are so grateful for all of your hard work, for your support. We know this whole situation has been challenging, but we have maintained the support of each other, even when we sometimes did not agree and had to agree to disagree. But the one thing that we always keep in mind, regardless of what challenges are presented to us, that it's about our boys, our children. And if we continue to keep that focus, no matter what is presented to us in the final stages of all that is going on with the CARES Act, we still want to have that focus and we still want to maintain those relationships that you have established and know, as I said many times, phone call, a text, whatever away, and you know that's day and night. It does not matter to me. So with that being said, we want to get started. And
It's right in front of you. Right in front of you.
Okay.
thank you.
The one on the right.
Is behind you.
I was able to control it from here. You should be able to press.
Okay, here we go. So, what we want to look at, of course, is Super Act update, strong start, I am moving update, and I did give everybody kind of like a little one-pager of some things that we shared on our federal programs, grants management, monthly call. I'm going to give you a report about the surveys and what's happening with that, and some of your schools have submitted. Just a quick update on reimbursement, and I'll always provide you with those resources, and I truly appreciate that they've shared that financial information with you as well, because many times you all do ask for that. Again, thank you for all that you do. Let's look. In terms of the Super Act, meaningful consultations, they're ongoing. Remember, when the budgets are being submitted, we're also having the administrative and indirect costs. You are to ask for clarification and transparency as to what are those costs for. Most of your LEAs are going to be very specific with you. If not, yes, you do have the right to ask. We know that the last thing happening, the IFR being invalidated or no longer in effect, that some of the funds have decreased. The count is now going to be based on low income. The LEAs are already working diligently, trying to hurry up and get those new allocations so they can give those to you. I would say a good thing to do right now is to have the schools just look at the needs assessment and say, hey, what's the main thing? What is the most important thing? So you can go back and look to see. But keeping in mind that until we get clear guidance from Congress and Ed, we are following the law to remain safe. Because as I share with you many times, especially when we have our non-public annual meeting in the summers. And sometimes I tell you guys, I said, hey, it is the LEA that has to be audited or be monitored. And you guys just offer that moral support. So we have to protect our LEAs, and I want you to understand that, and I know that you are. Even when you do too, have questions or concerns, do what you always do. Send those to me so we can talk about it, we can discuss it. But just know, some of the things that they're doing, they have to do to protect themselves financially because they are the fiscal and the program managers. We talked about the transparency. As I stated, the IFR is no longer in effect. We are using the low income account. The consultations are going on. We are waiting, as we said, for that guidance. In terms of the surveys, wow, your schools really are giving some valuable information. What is happening is, as I'm looking at the surveys and I'm seeing some disconnects, but some of you meet your Title IV items. And I'm making a call to the LEAs, they are working on it. Let's keep in mind too, that not only do they have all of the grants for the CARES Act, they have their Super Act. Do they have those grants that are not tied to federal programs or formula grants? They have the Circle Grant, they have IPA. So your designees that have been working with the LEAs have been stay in contact with them, and if there's anything that they can provide them to help this process move smoother or faster, let's do that. As you know, some of you had conversations with me when we talked about the IFR and we were talking about the guidance, and we started hearing the rumblings of there was a situation between the United States and China with the child labor dispute. And so some of you who are on the phone with me know that I said, I've got to check that out. Well, it's true. And it's still going on, and it has held up a lot of things in terms of devices. However, just know that everybody is trying to work around everything. And so please, whatever you do, now that we have a situation of meeting, not exceeding the allocation for the low income calculation, work with them. In some cases where we are going to use certain devices, and some devices we may have to look at other ways of handling it. Now, in terms of the reimbursement, many of you have that, and the deadline date, of course, is July 30th to get that submitted. I'm hearing from private, non-public schools and LEAs, those things are coming in, and you are working on that. Now, I want to caution you with looking at that and keeping in mind the change in the allocation. So work directly, LEAs are ready and willing to assist you on that. When we talk about resources for the non-public school, these are key areas. And it would really be good to share that with your administrators so that they can have that as well. And we just like to clarify, most of the information is on the website. And then we do have the resource section, school finance, as Beth just said, and Lindsay, who handles all of the state non-public items and the contact, and our office, federal programs, that handles all of the fiscal, in terms of the titles, in terms of ESSA, and anything related is within our office.
That's an old last name.
Oh, you know what? It is.
So it's Rose.
It's Rose.
She's not Rose.
I would definitely make that change. Thank you, Lindsay. And I thought I could put another. So, what I would like you to do is to look at the handout that I gave you of the Federal Programs Update, CARES Act, Equitable Services. As it updates on that first section, we know that the IFR is no longer effective. And these are the things that we shared on our office hours report last week. And I just want to review it. Mainly, the key items that we want to review. You know that you now need to engage in additional consultation with the child. So LEAs are already contacting the schools, they're contacting you all to engage in additional consultation to update everything. Also, as we stated, the low income count is what is being done. And the services that are being provided and the devices, we want them to remain because we do not want student services interrupted. So if there's a shift in how long it's going to be there for right now, we do not want to disrupt any student services. So they're there till the end of the year. Back orders and materials and supplies, have that discussion with the district to see there may be a way to curtail some of the costs by looking at that and seeing what it is. You may be able to think, you may cancel some things, you may be able to shift some things to one of your other grants. You may have something in GER or incentive funds that maybe now can go over to ESSER. And so far as I know, as of 2 days ago, many of those conversations are taking place.
Yeah, so a quick second on that particular bullet.
Sure.
As you're engaging with your districts regarding devices and the example that the school is in, meaning they have little to no low-income students to really generate the funds. One of the things you probably want to consider in consultation, if the district chooses to perhaps, if the vendor allows them to cancel the order or use it for public students, you may want to consider, well, let us purchase the computers because if you need them and you don't get them at that moment when they come in, then you go into the back of the line, as Daphne was saying earlier, in terms of the backlog. So if there's an immediate need, that may need to be discussed with the federal program director to see if there are some provisions where your school may want to purchase the computers as opposed to going back to the vendor or present to the LEA, you can use them for your public school students. So you just want to put that on the table for you to think about and as we mitigate this process here.
And that's great, because that was the next bullet. And then the other thing to that as well, in doing so with one of the reasons why is because if you go and do a whole new order, as he stated, then that's gonna put you at the end of the line in terms of getting those devices.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
My question is, we placed an order, one of my schools placed an order for iPads back in August when we were told to do that. Of course, they've been on back order. We received notification on Monday they were being delivered to the school. Since the order went in back in August, the delivery happened after this IFR, they go back to the parish, right? I mean, we can't use these iPads, we have to, send them back to the parish.
Right, if you don't have the students, the low-income students in that school to generate the funding to cover the order, then they have to be the property of the district at that time.
Even though the district didn't order them.
We have
Okay.
dealt with cases one-on-one about those kinds of things, but at this point, the school is, and that's something, and I know it's hard to swallow, is that if your school is ineligible because they didn't have accounts of the kids, we have to honor the district.
And also, in terms of those counts, if they do not, but if that school has like a scholarship program that you can also use to get some counts, even if it's 10 or 15 children, that's better than zero. And with that scholarship program, you know that there are several. So the LEAs would need to check though, that family's income base. And they can use the family income survey from 2019 as a guide because those incomes are listed there. And that is okay. If you need me regarding that, don't hesitate to contact me. But it's going to be a situation, you guys, where a lot of things that happen now, we're gonna work with on a case-by-case basis, because everything is not always generic. So we are already, case-by-case, working with LEAs, working with the private schools, working with you on certain situations and trying to resolve it to the best of our abilities while sticking with the law as it states right now, low income count until we get additional classifications and clearances from U.S. Department of Ed. Yes.
Daphne, we pulled a lot of our federal funds, so, so is that doable for this funding also? Since
This is what's gonna happen. We're gonna put that into a webinar that Mr. Cook and I will be attending in a few minutes. And that is a question that's popping up across the country. And I do wanna say this too. Keep in mind, as we're going through this, yes, it's challenging, it's a struggle, but we're all in this together. But this is not happening just here, it's happening across the United States. It's happening in our countries that are under U.S. jurisdiction, Guam, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. Some of those countries did it. Everybody did total enrollment. Some of our states here did total enrollment across the board. So in saying that, I'm just saying, we're gonna have questions as this goes along. Send them to us. Send them to us in an email because that helps us, number one, keep track of it. We also realize that that is something that is important and we do need to get an answer. So we have that question and we will be asking that question today. Lucina Monastic has a virtual conference and we will be participating. And also we had a call with Fed Ed it's about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and it kind of came up. And at that time, Dr. Mel, even they didn't have an answer. So it's some of those things, but what you have to do is, no matter how small you think it is, whether you even say, should I send that? Yes, send it. Send it, because we need that. And as you see on the back, it gives you the information from me, but everybody in here knows how to contact me. Any other questions?
Yes, in a unique situation, we purchased exam salt, which is an online assessment suite, and we did it in the summer, but our LEA, many of them could not work remotely, so there was things just not getting processed, the printer was broken for 2 weeks, just on and on. So it's underway, so we're halfway through the installment, because it's very labor intensive, and so now, it's not like we can send the device back, we're halfway in the middle of this purchase. They're telling us it's very expensive.
Well, send that to me in an email because it sounds like you all have already started the process. So if the process has already started, then that means that it's functioning. Now, the difference may come in the cost factor. Maybe before, when we were speaking of total enrollment, there was enough funds there to cover the whole thing. Right now, it will only be up to a certain amount that the LEA may be able to pay, and then the school may have to pick up the balance or come up with other ways, either through donations or what have you, to do that, or to work with the company and see if they would be willing to kind of like stand out the invoices. I spoke to a company last week who said, hey, look, I get what's going on. Is it okay if I say they can only pay this amount this year and we'll tack on the balance to next year's budget because I know they're going to be using this for the next 2 or 3 years. And I said, if they agree with you, that is great. So we just have to work with everybody. We got to work with our vendors. And trust me, some of these vendors on these devices, they're happy that we're canceling because they have other orders that they have to fill, so that's helping out there too. Mr. Cook?
No.
Oh, I thought you were
Any other questions? Thank you, Daphne, and
All right,
thank you,
thank you.
Manuel, for all
Thank
your
you,
work
Daphne.
and keeping us in, I know we're all in this together, and it's been difficult, but hopefully we'll work it out. So, all in favor? Any opposition? The next on our agenda, 5.3, consideration of an update report regarding mentor teacher and content leader certification requirements at Sarah. I need a motion to receive the report. Dr. Mel, Dr. Baker, second. All in favor? Oh, never mind, I did that too quick. Dr. Keith Corville has signed a card to speak, so we'll let you know for public comment.
I'm sorry for cutting you in line, Sarah, but I had another meeting to get to, so thank y'all so much for letting me say a word. Hey, Dr. Keith Corville, Executive Director of the Associated Professional Educators of Louisiana, and just wanted to drop in for a moment to, spread the good word. The Association's foundation has invested heavily in mentor teacher and subsidizing that for schools or districts. So if you need support on any of that, let us know. I'll drop some bars off. We are currently serving 865 teachers, which I think puts us at 1.6% of all teachers in Louisiana. So yeah, it's been quite popular when you subsidize things for people, right? But seriously, if you need people certified for that or content leader, you let us know, and we're gonna support you.
Great, thank you very much. Hey, Sarah. Thanks.
Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. It's so nice to see all of you again. I just have one quick update that I want to share about the mentor credentials. I'm going to talk through that, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Christy, and she's going to give you all an update on the certification policy changes that you all advised on last year. The board did adopt those policy changes, and so Christy is going to talk through some of the implementation considerations. First off, with the mentor credential. So as we talked about a few times before, the board did adopt mentor credential requirements in October of 2018. If you all have any teachers in your system that are going to be pursuing certification, they're participating in an undergraduate residency, or they're in their first year on an EL, they do need to be mentored by an educator who holds either the provisional ancillary certificate, the ancillary mentor certificate, or the supervisor's certification. This policy was supposed to go into effect this fall, so in September. And as you can imagine, given everything that's happening right now, the Louisiana Association of Colleges and Teacher Education did request a waiver of the mentor credential policy for this year only. And so the update that I have for all of you is that Bessie did approve this waiver on a case-by-case basis at the August meeting. And so we have the details up here about applying for the mentor waiver request. If you have any educators who need that mentorship, and if you need a waiver for them, then you can fill out this application. If it's an undergraduate resident, we recommend that you work directly with the teacher population provider, and they'll submit the waiver request for you. If it is an alternate certification candidate, you can submit the request on your own. So I wanted to provide you all with that update. Any questions about the mentor waiver process? One thing that I should mention is that the way this is structured is that the waiver will be provided for any educator who is highly recommended by their principal. And so if you have an educator in this situation, you'll just need to get the principal to highly recommend them, they'll sign off on the waiver, and then receive it. So wanted you all to have that update. And then, I think it was 9 months ago when we were together talking about certification policy updates and the renewal requirements for non-public certificates. So based upon feedback from all of you, we did update that policy. We asked the board to consider that, and they did actually consider it in June. So that is going to go into effect in October, and Christy's going to talk through some of the implementation around those policy updates. So I think before I turn it over to her, I think we'll close out the mentor item and move into that. Any questions about mentor? All right, thank you.
One more. Or I guess, I think there's another slide. I didn't know if you were.
Oh, I thought they were both together.
We need to, all in favor? Discussion, never mind. No. All in favor? Any opposition? So,
The next item.
Christian,
The next item.
5.4. Need a motion to receive. Mr. Carroll, second. Kimberly. Let's talk.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to see everyone. Some of the policy updates that were made and approved in June, as Sarah mentioned, were around non-public certificates, based off of the feedback that you all provided. So one of the things that's going to happen is for issuance of a level 2 asterisk certificate, previous policy required that an educator serve in the same non-public school system for 3 consecutive years before applying for that certificate. That requirement for the same non-public school has been removed. So now service in any non-public school for 3 consecutive years would make them eligible to apply for that level 2 asterisk certificate. Paula, Millie Certification Specialist, and I are working on some new applications and forms so that you and or the previous school can attest to that experience. We hope to have those applications ready by October 1st. The policy doesn't go into effect until October 20th, so we hope to be a little bit ahead of the game. But that is one of the big updates with the policy changes. Another large update that hopefully will make things a little bit simpler. CLUs are no longer required for renewal of a non-public certificate. Again, this doesn't go into effect until October 20th of this year, but CLUs will no longer be required. The way that an individual will renew the asterisk certificate will be through local personnel evaluations. Again, there will be some additional forms that we're working on that will be a part of that non-public hire application. We hope to have that ready next week and posted, but that's one of the main updates to non-public certificates. Hopefully that will make things a little bit simpler. Any questions about that before I move on? And again, that was from feedback provided by you all. So we definitely appreciate your partnership in that. Some other clarification. So recently in our online portal, we've received an influx in these 3 types of applications. I'm sure some of it probably has to do with the COVID restrictions with student populations. But in addition to the increase, we've also seen an increase in the confusion that seems to be out there with these 3 different certificates. So I just kind of wanted to talk through these 3 certificate types. Now, we are aware that, of course, some of you choose to follow non-public school standards or to have your educators meet non-public school standards. Some choose to require certification. So I'm going to kind of speak to both of those scenarios. If you require your educator to receive certification and they're enrolled or trying to enroll in the teacher preparation program, then the TAC, or the Temporary Authority to Teach certificate, is the certificate that you would want to apply for them. That's kind of used as leverage while they're pursuing certification. The requirement for them to qualify for that certificate, it has to be an LEA or a school system level workforce lead area, and they have to have had passed their practice 1 reading and writing portion of the exam, and they have to have a 2.2 GPA. So if your candidate is pursuing certification and they have those requirements, that's the certificate that you would apply for, is the TAC.
Can I just ask, unless I'm having a senior moment, for us in the Catholic school, for the temporary teaching assignment, we refer to that as a TTA. So you're telling me now it's a TAT?
It's a little bit different. I'm gonna go, the one that you're talking about is the non-public T.
Okay, well,
Instead of TTA, they call it just T.
just the T,
It's just the
okay.
T, yes, ma'am. It's short.
Yeah, so we're gonna confuse them even more now.
No, we're
Right now, we'll have to re-educate them, okay? Huh? Okay.
So going to that, I'm gonna hop over to the non-public T. That is for the school systems that are trying to work towards meeting non-public school standards. Not for those schools that are trying to have their teachers certified.
That's new. So that's new. I guess if I'm confused, I know that we're gonna confuse them.
So the non-public T is pointed to a teacher who's working towards meeting Bulletin 741, non-public school standards. They have their bachelor degree. There is no GPA requirement, no praxis exam requirement. That's just working towards getting those hours of coursework that may be necessary to meet the non-public school standards. That would be that NTTA that you're speaking of. In our policy, it's just referred to as a non-public T, shortened just as a T.
And that's for the nature of the learner.
Right,
courses and-
right. It says 12 credit hours, and 4 courses, yes ma'am. Now, for any of the educators in your system that serve as a substitute, an administrator, or a teacher that does not hold certification, Act 634 requires that they have a teaching authorization.
Okay.
So that is not really a certificate of a credential, that's really just clearance of a background check.
Correct.
So if they don't hold one of the others, then they need to have a TA. And that just signifies that they have passed their background check. Any questions about that? That's all I have.
Okay, so can you put that up again, please?
And we still,
So we choose to do that,
we're
yes.
still doing all.
So, for me, with the TTAs, it's people who are not certified in the area that they're teaching, and they're working towards certification. So now I'm going back to a T instead of a TTA. Is that what I'm seeing?
Yes, ma'am.
So the forms are gonna be different?
Well, the forms, we have updated the forms, they are on the website.
Well, we do that ourselves.
I'm clarifying, do you mean they're not certified as
In
in
the-
like a public school teacher?
No, they're not certified in the,
They're not
they agreed, but they're teaching out of their they're not certified in what they're teaching.
They don't have the 30 course hours.
Correct.
in the subject.
So they're on a TTA, which is what we refer to
Right. yes,
while they're
ma'am.
getting their certification.
Those also can be district issued through the diocese as well.
Yes, and that's what we choose to do.
Okay.
And to clarify, they don't ever have to get their certification as long as they complete those courses that are in non-public.
As long as they meet non-public.
So they don't have to
Correct.
be state certified.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I'm okay.
Does that help?
Sister Carol will get me straight.
And if you have any questions, by all means, we do offer office hours for all of our school systems through the HR portal. We offer 8 15-minute sessions every day, Monday through Thursday. We'd be happy to hop on a call with you to discuss any specific or general certification questions that you have. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I think that brings us to just again to remember that, our next meeting is on January the 20th, 2021, at 1 o'clock. Anything else before I ask for a motion to adjourn? We did that pretty good, it's 2 minutes to 12. I need a motion to adjourn. Dr. Mel, second. Michelle, all in favor? Thank you all very much. Thanks, Nikki. Thanks to your staff.